I am a psychic medium. That's what I do for work. Welcome to the Messages from Heaven television show. My name is Rebecca Ann LoCicero, and I have been working in Connecticut as a psychic medium since 1994. My job, I often think about like what exactly is it with the mediumship that's my job, and all I know is that there is an afterlife. I don't care what you call it. I call it heaven. There's no other better word for me. I can't think of a better word. I mean,
the funniest, I can't even, I'm sorry, it's just so funny that it's him. He would be like, he didn't believe in this kind of stuff at all. Like, he was just like,
really?
Adamant, yeah.
Oh no, he's flying through with flying.
He's got this
great. My goal is to present raw, uncut, and unedited live readings on camera for you. I'll be doing this by presenting and sharing with you messages from heaven. Let me inspire you with the reality of mediumship. Hello, and thank you for joining us once again for the 17th episode of Messages from Heaven. My name is Rebecca Ann LoCicero, and I am the host, your psychic medium for this show. As usual, this show is going to be uncut, unedited, and raw footage. However, this show has a little bit of a twist. Instead of me doing readings, I'm going to be interviewing one of my friends, one of my colleagues, somebody very special to me, and a huge part of my life, Bob Ginsberg. Bob Ginsberg is the co-founder of the Forever Family Foundation. At the end of all of my episodes, the Forever Family Foundation seal airs through the credits. This seal is something that I feel very honored and special to have because it means that I passed a evaluation and a test to become a certified medium for this organization. And we're going to talk to Bob about that. In addition, we're going to get to explore and ask questions connected to this book, The Medium Explosion. Bob Ginsberg wrote this book for a variety of reasons, and we're going to find out a few of them. But one of the most fascinating things about this book is that there are stories in here to explain and coincide with all of the information that he's sharing. And just so you know, my story in this book is so dirty and raw and profanity warning that I can't even read it to you on air. So make sure you look this up and you go to the foreverfamilyfoundation.org so you can get your own copy of The Medium Explosion. All of the proceeds go towards the nonprofit. This is a worldwide nonprofit organization, the Forever Family Foundation. They study the interaction and they explore the afterlife through mediumship and science. So it's very close to my heart too, because as a medium, I don't really get to volunteer a lot. I don't get to be in an environment where I am truly giving all of what I have to offer, my mediumship, maybe classes, maybe knowledge, in a way that is 100% free and then given back to others as well. So it is my pleasure to introduce to you my guest today, Bob Ginsberg.
Rebecca.
Hello there.
Thank you for inviting me.
Well, thank you for coming.
It's always my great pleasure to spend some time with you.
Oh, we just have a good time. I have known you for a very long time.
Probably since 2006.
2006. Yes, 2006. Through two other people, one who was a volunteer for the foundation, and you only started the foundation in 2004.
Yeah, 2003.
2003,
yeah.
Okay. So when I found you, it was because I had a teacher who was volunteering and helping, not a medium. And she was my Reiki teacher. So I was really excited when she started talking about it. And then I'm the type of person where I was like, okay, spirit leads to let me know this is the right thing. And then I heard another medium on the radio mention the words Forever Family Foundation. I was like, my ears perked up. I was like, I need to know what this is. And I wound up researching it to such an extreme that I couldn't do anything but call. And when I called, I got your wife on the phone. Now, for our audience, I will preempt with this so you guys know. Bob and Fran Ginsburg, this beautiful couple, lost their daughter in 2002. And that is a catalyst to the two of you starting this foundation. And Fran has since passed, which touches my heart because she was my #1 mentor in this field. And I remember calling her in 2006 or 2007 and getting her on the phone, and she was like, "Oh, so you want to be a medium? Why?" And I remember thinking to myself, "Oh my God, who am I on the phone with?"
Well, then you met me, and we're two very different people, right?
Well, yeah.
But if we were having this conversation in 2001, I'd think you were nuts. I remember I didn't believe in mediumship. I didn't believe in an afterlife. I remember very distinctly, I think it was about 3 months before my daughter passed, I was playing golf with a friend of mine, and my friend Kenny, and he had just lost his wife to breast cancer. And we got this serious look on his face. I was sitting in a golf cart. He said, "I have to tell you something." I said, "What?" He said, "I went to a medium," and like alarm bells started going off in my head.
Oh my gosh.
And I said, "Yeah." And he said, and Bob, she told me all these specific, amazing things that she couldn't possibly have known. Mm-hmm. And the only thing I could do is give him some sort of a weak, lame, "Oh, well, Kenny, you never know," And I remember going home to Fran afterwards for golf and saying, "I'm so worried about Kenny.
Oh, no.
He's going to see this gypsy fortune teller, and she's going to take all his money, and he's so consumed with his grief," and that's, I didn't know what a medium was. I just didn't, I was ignorant, to that whole world. And honestly, I probably spent even after I was investigating and researching all the evidence for life after death, probably took about 6 years before I became convinced.
Wow.
Yeah, I was a hypocrite.
So this experience, when he told you about the medium,
Yeah.
was just months before your daughter crossed.
Right.
Did you go back to him at any point in time and ask him about his medium or mention anything to him?
No, I never did that.
But it was caught in your head. It was a thought was it a thought?
Yeah, I told you, it did teach me to have respect for other people's feelings, because here I was criticizing him. And,
Skeptic.
Total skeptic, and yet look at my life today.
Yeah.
But what I noticed early on when we started researching all these things, especially mediumship, is that, frankly, there are a lot of crappy mediums out there.
Yeah, hence this.
Yeah, and we felt that there was a need to be able to evaluate the proficiency and the evidence that a medium can bring forth, and we do that under controlled conditions. I visited several scientists that study mediumship in university settings, and I learned everything that I could. And then I developed my own method, which you've...
Yeah, which is in the book as well, how you which to me, I always thought was a secret. So when I first met Fran was on the phone, and then fast forward, I think I went to a volunteer meeting, and then, the foundation was so young that then Fran immediately said, "Well, we need volunteers, so you can come and pour wine and cut cheese." And I was like, aye, Captain, and put on the right hat, And it wasn't until until both of you, until the whole foundation, I watched as the mediums, did what they did in their events, and I watched the volunteers get really close. And when I say that the volunteers, now I've been connected to the foundation. I took this test in 2007, and the volunteers that I knew then, there's, some of them are still around and very connected. This organization has done profound, amazing things, not just for the mediums, but for the volunteers, for the people that have come in. So do you remember when I took the test?
As you know, my memory is not great, but I know there were some things that went on you have an effect on electronics.
I wouldn't know what you're talking about.
I know we've been in several situations. You were giving demonstrations and so forth. And I think Spirit's calling on my phone right now.
Oh, well, that's
Well,
good. Let's hope they're okay. I always say that's a sign when the phones go off during a reading. I'll be like, do they talk to your phone? Like,
But yeah, listen, I do remember you doing a demonstration for us. And
yeah, we were in Fort Myers, Florida when I was doing that.
all sorts of things started happening with electronics. And I think
Somebody electrocuted or something.
when we were doing your evaluations, you kind of blew out a few computers. Yeah.
There were some situations. I do tend to bring a lot of high vibration. People say when I come into a room, the attention is there. And even here, we've blown a couple of the lights out. They haven't even been replaced, one of them, because I say it's us. But I say it's me if that's what it's going to be. But that doesn't get somebody to pass a test just because I blow out some computers. In fact, I remember very distinctly during that testing that I was told, don't start yet, by Fran. And whoever I was sitting in front of, I started. And she was like, you messed up the whole thing. And I didn't, thank God, because I passed this rigorous test. And we're talking hours and 5 sitters and different interactions on the phone and having to hold and having to. I was very nervous. So for test takers, I don't know. How do you feel about this? Tell us about the evaluation.
Well, when we first started to do the evaluations, we did it in a physical place, and we rented a ballroom in a hotel. And I think we evaluated like 9 mediums at once. And we had partitions set up, and we had 9 sitters that I trained, how to score, the information. And then that evolved because that was really an untenable situation, gathering people. People had to fly in, sitters, mediums. And then we started doing it online. Yours was online.
I was online and on the phone. I had to do both. I had to download a program online where I could see the person. And then I had to, and I remember because I did it right at my kitchen table online. And then when it was time to do the phone, I actually booted myself outside to the garage. And at the time, I smoked cigarettes.
Right.
So I'm out in the garage pacing while I'm doing the readings on my cordless phone outside. But we got it done.
Yeah, I think the reason that you probably got yelled at by Fran was that we had a very, very tight schedule. Because
yes, 15 minutes.
Each reading was 15 minutes, and it was in a rotating fashion.
Right.
And we'd break you up into set private, breakout groups. And if there was some technical issue, the whole schedule got, messed up. So we would encounter that a lot, with mediums.
Well, we don't like to follow rules.
Yeah, I know. I noticed that.
Did you?
I noticed that.
Do all mediums not follow rules?
Pretty much.
Okay.
Pretty much.
I do have a script with some questions, so I want to make sure that I talk about some of the things that are in here. And now that we're talking about mediums, I'm going to go right to page 49 because you say here, and I do love this.
Don't ask me about anything about the book.
Because you don't
I don't remember it.
You did write it. It's all your words, I can tell.
I'll take your word for it. If you
Okay,
tell me.
first of all, the medium explosion.
Yeah.
That's a little dangerous.
Yeah. Well, the reason for the title is that there's just simply every street corner that you go on, you see a sign for psychic or mediumship. It was like that in the Victorian era. In the late 1800s, early 1900s, there were mediums all over the place. People were doing seances. It was a form of entertainment. I mean, back then there were no computers and internet and TVs.
Right.
So, people would gather around and these things. But mediumship, when you think about it, mediums are sitting with grieving people predominantly, right? And you would not call yourself a therapist because you're not trained as a therapist, but yet you're dealing with people that are in grief and are right on the edge. And there are no guidelines. There are no ethical standards. There's no licensing. There's no proficiency evaluations. There's no continuing education. There's no training about how to deal with somebody in grief. So it's a very, very big responsibility.
And I think mediums, just so you know, should take that responsibility. I don't promote that I'm a therapist in any shape, way, or form, but I have a degree in psychology as well as a certification in pastoral counseling, just in case I come across different religions. And I think every single medium should have some basis in counseling, therapy, even if it's just a pastoral counseling course that's simple through a local location instead of something big. But some of them even combine. I see that they, I've seen that too. But at the same time,
mediums that get certified in, in grief therapy.
Or licensed in marriage family therapy, because sometimes the grief is strong because of the family dynamic too.
Right. Well, I don't have to tell you, with mediumship, it's a double-edged sword. I mean, I've seen over the past 20 years countless cases of people that have their whole perspective flipped. I mean, it can be tremendously helpful in the grieving process if you get a really good evidential reading. Mm-hmm. On the other hand, if you're on the fence about is this afterlife real, or you're really just hanging in there, if you get a bad medium reading and everything is general and nothing makes sense, you could walk away from that reading in worse shape than when you came.
Almost like your hopes got shattered.
Yeah. So, and that's why we take it so seriously. And so, the reason I wrote the book, it wasn't to bash mediums. It was quite the opposite, because I want to show that, even though I state in the book, and I'll stand by it, that 85 to 90% of the mediums practicing today cannot do what they claim.
I love that. Wait.
There are
85 to 90%
right.
cannot do what they claim.
Right.
I agree with you.
And I'm not saying that they're fraudulent. Some are, but most of them are just inexperienced. We all have intuitive ability.
And they don't have a way to know that either. I think that, so I've been doing this for 30 years, and just now am I willing to look at a inexperienced medium and say, you need more experience. Where I think in the medium field, it is and it has been, it shouldn't be, but it is and it has been faux pas to call out another medium by a medium. So there's a lot of behind the scenes with that. So
that's true of any profession, though.
True,
right? Yeah.
but not, well, I don't know, because you would even have it maybe on the outskirts, somebody would say something, but you never really see it. So to me, I wonder would you think that, putting the evaluation test of mediums aside, one of my questions would be, do you think that Yelp, which I'm not a fan of, I don't know if I should have said that, maybe we have to edit that, we'll see, but the online reviews, so I have Facebook reviews, I have Google reviews, and I have Yelp reviews, and there's so many different things, 3-star, 4-star, 1-star, 5-star, whatever it may be. And it's not Amazon like your book for, things like that, but it's people who go on to these social places and they put their information down. Do you think that that's helpful? Because I tell my people, if you're going to go to a medium, look them up. What do you think of that? Or that rating system? Because how else are you going to know?
Yeah. Well, the difficult thing about mediumship, and it is helpful, because what's the criteria that you want to use when you're deciding whether to go to see a particular medium? You want to know that other people had good results by it. So if they post reviews that, Rebecca was very evidential and she was saying things she couldn't possibly have known or looked up or researched, I would be encouraged by that. But it is a difficult process, because you well know that I might have somebody that goes to a medium and they get a tremendous reading, and then another person goes to that same medium and they don't connect. It's not an exact science.
That's true.
I look at mediumship, but it's a three-way. Has to be a synergy of three parties: the person in spirit, the sitter, the person getting the reading, and the medium.
Yeah.
And if it's not meshing, it's not resonating among the three, it's not going to happen.
Right.
But when it clicks, it can be incredible.
I agree.
So,
Well, okay, so you wrote in here, and this is in the chapter called Fraudulent Mediums. At the very end, it says, although frauds do exist in the mediumship world, it is much more likely that you might chance upon a medium that is well intended but lacks the necessary ability and experience to receive and communicate evidential information. This latter category includes people who have had some sort of common afterlife experience and then convince themselves that they are destined to help people with their gift. So, what I'd like to know is, do you feel that a lot of mediums, fraudulent or not, become mediums, and that there may have been such an explosion of mediums, which I think is a great word because I think it's a dangerous thing that there's so many, that they've had their own experiences and then they have their own connections to their loved ones, so they kind of jump into this category, or they've had a near-death experience, so they've connected with this afterlife, so they jump into this category, because I can't connect to that. I don't remember a time in my life when I wasn't seeing and hearing spirit. Like, it was always. So I'm 50, so it's been 50 years I've been seeing it. 30 years I've been doing it as a job. But there's people who I meet along the way where they're like, I had this near-death experience, now I can see all these people, or I had this traumatic event, and now I'm connecting in this way. And you may not have had or received the most readings of anybody I know, but you by far have experienced and witnessed more readings than anybody I know, like hundreds of thousands of readings, Bob.
Yeah, well, to your point, yeah, I have noticed that a lot of people who have pretty good intuitive ability, they'll relate an experience, or they'll say something to a friend, either psychically or mediumistically, and the friend will say, wow, you should be a medium. And don't forget the influence that the media has today with popular TV shows. We made a lot of mediums famous, right? So, so
yeah, if you go back into the Forever Family Foundation list of mediums, I would say there's 3 who are on national and international television right now.
Right.
I'm not looking to do that. I'm afraid of TV. That's why we don't cut and edit.
Yeah. Well, but
I get that. They get to that space.
And my point is that you were alluding to this before, is that, so their friend says, wow, that's really good. And they think, well, they're meant to be a medium. There's nothing wrong with being a personal communicator. You don't have to hang out a shingle just because you have the ability, to do these things.
That's true.
We all have varying degrees. I don't have a lot of intuitive ability.
I'm kind of anti-blinking light.
Yeah.
Just saying.
But I also find that, because we deal with so many people that are in grief, working with the bereaved, is that people have an experience where they have a dream visitation or some sort of after-death communication with their loved one, and they take that as a sign that their loved one wants them to become a medium.
Oh, wow. Yeah, exactly.
Or write a book, and that's another dynamic that you have to deal with.
But I think that's all a process of grief too for people who've lost somebody. However, there are a lot of good mediums out there that I've met that have lost somebody that find themselves in that situation or have put themselves in the holistic world. I just don't personally think that everybody who has a near-death experience is now a medium. So for me, I kind of wonder, I would have to interview them all, which you do. So it's fascinating to me.
Yeah.
What could somebody say to you? What could just some layperson give you in conversation that you think would convince you to go see a medium? Say it's a medium you didn't know, and you meet like somebody out somewhere who goes, oh, I went to this one medium once who said this or did this. What would be like a let's go and do this kind of?
To me, it's all about the evidence.
Okay, so what does that mean?
I mean, I've had friends tell me about a reading that they had, and then I'll ask if they recorded it, and because with any good medium, the medium should allow you to record the session. So and I'll listen to it. First, they'll tell me all the things that the medium said. And all these specific things. And then I'll listen to the recording. The medium didn't say it, but the person desperately wants, the connection to be made. And sometimes they're hearing things that the medium didn't say. But on the other hand, sometimes the medium is incredibly evidential. So that would be a turn on for me.
So if you heard something evidential, what would that mean? So for me, I have my 3 rules. It's yes or no. That's what I want to hear from you. If it's a no, don't give me the answer. Spirit will fill me in. If it's between here and there, it could be names or dates, like specifically that connect between people you would understand why they're bringing them up, right? Like siblings, parents' names, things like that. And then they'll also talk about death, so trauma and illness. So those are the 3 things, like the 3 rules I tell people before I start reading. So they kind of have a specific guideline. It's also, and people who watch the show, they know because I give those 3 rules every time. It's like as soon as I give them, it's also my mantra to let Spirit know it's time to come through. But I think that, what is it that they could say to you? Because I often wonder, I'll get an email that says, I heard you were great. I need so-and-so went to go see you, or I was referred to you by and told I should go. And I'm wondering, like, what is it that they could say to make their friends or family email me, or a medium?
It just goes back to the evidence, I mean, what else could you? I mean,
like
they're not going to go to you
because
you have.
that kind of thing,
what type of evidence?
Yeah.
I mean, a specific name, an obscure piece of information that couldn't possibly research. I mean, for example, if you're given, I don't have to tell you, but for anybody else that wants to know, I mean, if you're giving me a reading, I mean, you could see approximately how old I am, my approximate age.
Okay.
When you say, Bob, I have your grandmother here in spirit. Do you have a grandmother in spirit? Well, yeah, she'd be 115, but that's okay. But the sitter would have to mark that as a hit because it's a piece of information that's true. But if you say to me, Bob, I have your grandmother Rebecca here, and my grandmother's name was Rebecca, and you follow that up with 2 or 3 other obscure pieces of information about her, that you would agree in a scoring process should be given a lot more weight because that's specific evidence.
Accurate.
Yeah. So, I mean, there's general information that's true. I could give anybody a reading and get 90% accuracy because it's all going to be general, bullshit.
Well, that's not fair.
But the more we weight specific evidence more heavily than general information.
Good. I crack a joke. Everybody's got a Michael, everybody's got an Elizabeth, Beth, Betty, and everybody's dad or grandfather read the newspaper. So I kind of throw it out there. I say everybody's grandmother cooked fresh food because that's all there was. Right. So I kind of try to get rid of those all immediately. Here's another thing I want to ask about. With this book in particular, and with myself being a medium, I do a lot of research, as any medium would, I would assume, looking at other mediums to see what they're doing, what they're charging, sharing in their joy. We have the Forever Family Foundation group of mediums. We have our own social network where we support each other and we ask each other questions and things like that. But one of the things that I noticed that's not just common to the Forever Family Foundation mediums, but to all mediums across the board, is that not all mediums put their price on their website. Talking about the value of mediumship in the context of dollar bills, in both events, privates, groups, etc., and putting that in the placement of ethics as far as saying how much you're going to charge. In my mind, if I'm going to go to a medium and there's no price, if they could stereotype or place any amount on a reading for me where I feel it would be more comfortable if there were prices out there. Now, my prices are not a secret. My prices are on my website, and it's been the same. I haven't really raised them very much. But when you do get more popular and you can't do as many, I see a lot of mediums, they'll raise their prices because it's like supply and demand, which I understand if you're milk. I don't understand it for mediumship.
Right.
But you must have an insight on that. Do you have an opinion on fee or if they should post it?
Yeah, it's interesting. It's a hot topic, and I think I wrote about it in the book.
You did write about it.
But we have had countless people over the years that come to us and say, wait, mediums are spiritual people, you know, and they're working with grieving, you know, why they shouldn't be charging any money
It's
at all.
God's work.
And of course, mediums have families, they have houses, they have mortgages, they have to pay their car insurance. I mean, mediums have to survive like everybody else. So I never begrudge a medium,
Me
you know,
neither.
for charging
Gotta
a
do
fair
what you
price
gotta
for something.
do.
On the other hand, I think mediums have to bear in mind the desperate situation that a lot of their clients are in. If you told me that you were going to connect with my daughter after my daughter passed, and you wanted to charge me $10,000, and I was convinced you were a good medium, I would have paid you $10,000, because a grieving parent would do anything, you know, to be able to connect. But you know, now I had $10,000 to give you, but what if somebody didn't have $10,000, you know, to give you, and they
couldn't
put
have
themselves in debt, you know, to do that? Mediums have to always bear in mind. I understand supply and demand, and mediums get very popular and famous, and they can charge $1,500 for a reading, and people will pay it, and tons of people will pay it. But you have to realize who your client is. So I have a real problem with mediums that do really large groups. When I say large, I'm talking about thousands of people.
Like
you know,
1,000, 10,000,
like
1,000
and up. You
Okay,
know,
1,000
you know,
and up.
You know, because you know, even some of the mediums that we've certified over the years, you know, 5,000 people charging $150 a pop. I mean, you do the math, but
But are they paying a lot of people though?
Well,
are they paying this one and paying that one? They have the manager. They have to pay for travel. They have to pay for promotion. They have to pay for.
It's true, but the way I look at it, if you have 3,000 people in the audience, over the course of the evening, the medium's going to read tops 10 people.
Tops.
Do 10 out of 3,000. There's, you know, there's 990 people that are going there saying to themselves, somehow my loved one, our love bond was so strong, the medium's going to find a way to connect with my loved one. And they all go home disappointed.
That's
now,
a lot of disappointed people.
Yeah, and I know you can make the argument that, well, if they're connecting with other people in the audience, I mean, I always felt good about that, because if your loved one survives, that means mine does too.
I hope
You
that
know.
I get that across as a medium in my galleries. You've seen me work a couple times.
Yeah.
I try to involve everyone in the holistic connection of making sure that, like, if these people over there want to hear something and I'm not reading them, I don't want them to be bored if I'm over here with somebody. I think it's important sometimes to pull back, and I'll use maybe explanations of how I'm getting something or what I'm receiving to everybody, and then come back in. But you can't read that. If there's 10 people in the room, you're reading 10 people. If there's 100 people in the room, you're reading 10 people. If there's 1,000, 10,000, 100,000 people in the room, you're reading 10 people.
That's why I always recommend, I mean, if you desperately want to get a good medium reading, you should book a private reading with a, you know, in a group setting. Listen, I know what it's like to be a medium only because mediums have told me. I mean,
We probably tell you all the time,
yeah, I
Bob.
mean, the one thing that stood out, I mean, you know, one of the mediums we certified, you know, Joe Scheel,
Yeah.
he was doing a grief retreat for us, and there were 50 people there. And he said to everybody, I want you to turn to the person next to you and just engage them in conversation. So everybody did that, and within 30 seconds, the noise in the room was deafening. And then he
Wow.
told everybody to stop. He says, "Welcome to my world." you know, because
yeah,
you
that
have
makes
you have
sense.
the loved ones, multiple loved ones of 50 people fighting to get his attention. So it's difficult for a medium. I know that. You know,
Yeah,
so, you
to
know,
quiet it.
Yeah, and hone in on you know, on
But
something.
when you have that many people in the room all wanting you as well, and I mean, anybody watching can do quick math. If you have 3,000 people and it's $100 a person, you've just made $30,000. So I think that, you know, whatever prices you charge, whatever venue you're at, how many people you can reach, as a medium, my goal would be those 10 readings that I'm going to do, I wanted to touch every single one of those people. I don't do groups of 3,000. I mean, maybe someday, who knows? And I would hope everybody gets included and is joyful, like I'm saying. But it's one of those things where I want everybody to feel included, because I feel like my job, more than just proving to somebody I can talk to dead people, is showing them that by communicating with your loved ones accurately, I can show you that the afterlife is real. So even if it's just 1% of their path, that's part of the path I want to be on. The financial aspect of it for me in particular is difficult, because it's not just how much you charge or what your window is or how many readings, but also I don't think I could do as much work as I would want to do to make as much money as I could, because I couldn't work 8 hours a day doing readings. I would be comatose. I make jokes, there's not enough steak and whiskey in the world for me to work every day.
Yeah. I've also observed over the years that mediumship takes a toll on the physical health of the medium.
Big time.
Because mediums are always saying things. When you're doing a reading, I feel a tightness in my chest. You're empathic from spirit.
Yeah.
You're feeling, what's being conveyed to you. I should ask you, because this is something else that one day I wanted to do a study on.
Uh-oh.
But I've noticed an extremely large percentage of mediums that have suffered trauma as a child, either physical or mental trauma. Somehow, it suggests that there's a trigger
To wake up the...
from trauma.
So, yeah, so not just the past life stuff or losing the loved one, but I understand what you're saying. I've heard that before, and I've thought about that before, because I was adopted. So I often would love to discuss that further, because I do think that being separated from your birth family at birth there's an infant separation anxiety trauma connected to it, because when people say, how did you get this? If I was to place it to a certain event, that would be the only thing I could place it to.
Right.
But I've heard that before with other people too, where it not only can open up their intuitive connection, but it could also mimic or manipulate or bring through mental illness. So it's an extremely fine line. I often say, and it's a popular saying, there's a fine line between psychic and psycho, right?
Right.
So, but you and I are also connected to the COPE project through Yale, which studies exactly that. I have some more questions before we run out of time. Can you share with me the top couple of reasons why you wrote this book, The Medium Explosion?
Well, I wanted to let people know that mediumship is a serious business. It's not a frivolous endeavor that you get into because you want to make money, you want to be famous.
Well, it shouldn't be.
Right. And also because there are a lot of people like me that they don't know what a medium is, and I go into a great deal about how mediums work and the processes that might be involved and so forth. And I wanted to also show that people how they should react and behave during a reading, what they should tell the medium, what they shouldn't.
That's actually one of my questions. What mistakes do sitters make? Because I have some complaints about some of my sitters. Sometimes they come in and they're wearing rest in peace t-shirts. And it's my job to tell you who's resting in peace, not yours, but they come in, like they'll have a family of 5 and they're all wearing the same rest in peace t-shirts with their loved ones' pictures. Do not wear those to a medium.
Exactly. Don't feed the medium.
Don't
right?
feed
so
the medium.
I've seen sitters, they show up, like you say, with an ornament with a big picture of their deceased loved one.
Beautiful.
But it's your job.
The fingerprint sometimes, or they'll have the wedding bands on, and it'll be that. I'll be like, really, did you lose a spouse? Because you're donning.
It's important to validate, the information and let the medium know if they're on the right track, because you know that if you're not getting correct information, you need more, and you have to go back to spirit and ask for more information.
It's kind of like, hold on, let me ask again.
Right.
But if give it to me again?
But if the sitter is just sitting there like this and not
responding.
not responding at all, that must drive you and spirit
crazy.
crazy.
I'll tell them, don't act like that. If you don't want the reading, I'll just be blunt. I'll be like, if you don't want this reading, just move on, don't be here. But there's other things that they do too. Tattoos. A lot of people will have straight up tattoos all about their loved ones on them and showing the jewelry, definitely, and then sharing information. So I made a deal with Spirit a long time ago where if the loved one that I'm sitting with feeds me information, I will repeat that information to them. And it may be later on. Like they may say something like, oh, when Beth died, da, 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 da. And then later on, I'll say, now you did say to me that her name was Beth. And they'll go, oh, I did? And I'm like, yeah, you did. and it's amazing to me that sitters can sit there and spit this information out left and right. And you're like, I literally, when I do a gallery, I used to have shut up stickers. So if you would overspeak, I would be like, shut up, and put like a sticker that said, shut up on it right on you.
Well, you realize why they do that, because they're excited.
Yeah,
but that ruins the process. So you'll say, I have your deceased mom here, and they'll go, and then
like,
you get a piece of information. Go, oh, yeah. Did you know that she was an artist? And you know that she did,
like,
whatever.
You didn't tell me that, right? However, I will say that I pride myself, and I thank Spirit, and I pride myself that when the sitter does feed me information, whether it be a T-shirt or they brought the urn with them or whatever it may be, I always know that Spirit is going to work with me and go above and beyond. Otherwise, what's the point of them being there in that kind of I've had people show up head to toe in clothes and in their loved ones. It fascinates me. What mistakes do mediums make? Even the good ones. Even me. What mistakes do you see mediums make? We're not perfect.
No. I mean, from the evaluation process, the mistake that they constantly, I school.
Oh, that evaluation process. Because people can call you up and be like, test me.
No, but even when they get to the point of the evaluation, I take pains to explain to them that the sitters will not be scoring messages. And you have to give a piece of information that's tied to somebody in spirit. We know that mediums have psychic ability. So by you telling me or asking me if I just painted my bedroom blue, let's say I did, and I'd say, wow, that's amazing. It's a great medium. It doesn't show that there's life after death. It's just a piece of psychic information. But let's say you're bringing through my deceased dad, and you give me 5 pieces of evidence, and then you say, hey, Bob, by the way, Dad's telling me that he likes that you just painted your bedroom blue. Okay, that's a piece of mediumistic information that's coming from spirit, and that should be scored very heavily. But we don't score psychic information unless you tie it to somebody in spirit.
Gotcha.
Also, the sitters are not going to score a message. If you tell me that Mom loves you.
But it's true.
It's true. And yes, how many mothers love their kids?
Okay, from a medium standpoint, let me tell you, not all mommies come through nice and kind and loving their kids.
Yeah, I understand that.
Like 80% do.
But the sitter's not in any position to know what the person in spirit is thinking. So
right.
It's okay to give a message, but the messages can only be accepted. I ask a question. Before the whole process starts, I send any prospective medium that sends an email that they're interested, I send them 5 questions.
Okay, what are they?
Simple questions. I won't go into all of them. They're just designed to see if there's any red flags. But one thing that I ask them, I said, what do you think is more important, the evidence or the messages of love? Okay?
Okay.
And that's a simple question.
It is.
And you'd be surprised. And now the answer I want to hear is the evidence, because I think the evidence, you have to know.
Well, not only that, but a medium trying to go for a test should probably say evidence too. I'm just saying. But
you would think. And yet so many say, my job is to provide, messages of love. And once I do that, my job is done. Well, that may be comforting to somebody that doesn't know anything about mediumship and that, they believe it. But from my perspective,
well, those are the ones charging $1,000 for a half hour.
Even the ones that don't, they're confused. They think they're a medium. That's what a medium does. To let you know that the person in spirit loves you. But first, give the evidence, then give the message.
So here's another thing that I would like to know. What is your favorite paranormal TV show?
I hate them all.
Oh my gosh, you said hate. I'm sorry, all you paranormal TV people.
No,
Bob said hate.
There are some that are done responsibly, and that's
okay.
fine. I mean, but a lot of the, the ghost hunting shows.
Yeah. Well, you're studying the afterlife. There's
Right.
got to be a lot of evidence, and I know that there is through the foundation. Like on the website, there's tons of scientists that have submitted evidence and have programs out and studies that you have. But paranormal TV shows, don't you know those are like the hottest thing? Like people watch that stuff, and that is something that even brings focus to the mediums sometimes. Although paranormal investigators, not a lot of them like mediums.
Oh, most of them work with mediums.
Yeah, but that doesn't mean they like us.
No, but there are some that are responsible, and they're cool. I mean, electronic voice phenomena, is real, but it's TV, and they want ratings, so they jazz it up a bit. We're talking about mediumship. I understand that, but mediumship is just one piece of the puzzle of afterlife evidence. I mean, we have near-death experiences.
Yes.
We have deathbed visions. We have reincarnation. We have after-death communications. Electronic voice phenomena. All of these things are interesting, and
Studied.
And studied,
Yes.
and people say, well, why are you interested in telepathy and
Well,
psychokinesis?
the foundation has connected me with 2 separate programs where I've had brain scans at universities.
Right.
So I mean, the foundation part of that is endless, and I love that.
Well, a prerequisite for believing in life after death, in order to believe in life after death, you have to believe that our mind or our soul or our consciousness, whatever you want to call it, can act independently of a physical brain. And that sounds weird, right? How could something act independently of a brain? But in telepathy, or even reading somebody's mind, how is that possible if your brain is there?
Wave somewhere.
Remote viewing. I mean, I've done my own experience with remote viewing where I drew pictures sitting in my home in New York, and somebody in Oregon. I drew a set of 5 different pictures, and
I remember this study. This was something else we did through the foundation.
Right. Then I put it in some of my talks. She drew 3 of my drawings exactly the way I drew them. So, and that was a pivotal point in getting me to believe in all that, because here was Bob in New York with Bob's brain in his skull, and this woman in Oregon, 3,000 miles away, with her brain in her skull.
Yeah.
How is it possible that she could be reading, what I am
Which is a
writing?
little woo-woo, too, by the way.
Yeah.
I love that.
Well, what's interesting about that, in remote viewing, time and space don't mean anything, and distance. And one of the pictures she drew on Thursday, but I drew it on Wednesday, and vice versa. So then you were saying, who's remote viewing who?
Who's remote viewing who? Yeah.
So, but all these things, the point is that if our brains, we know our brains die, right? We get cremated, we get buried. There's nothing
Water,
left.
bacteria, goodbye.
But if you could show that our minds or consciousness can operate independently of the brain, then a belief that our life continues becomes probable.
Yeah.
So.
Yeah, it does give a different perspective outside of a medium perspective.
Right.
That there's other ways to tap into those energies. So I know that our show is coming to an end, and although I could talk to you forever and ever and ever, I need to just come to this one very special part. If I can find it now, page 149. Yes.
I'm always interested to know what I wrote.
Oh, you're so cute. I will say that when I met you and Fran, your wife, Fran became somebody in my world who was not a medium, who pushed and tested my limits on so many levels. And one thing that we didn't get to discuss, but we should definitely do this again, because this isn't your only book. You do have another book, so we definitely could do another show. But one of the things that she said to me once, we were out at dinner, and I won't give the whole context of the evening, but she was talking about physical mediumship. So there's a difference between mental mediumship and physical mediumship. What I do is mental mediumship. However, I study physical mediumship, and I've been studying it pretty much since this one particular dinner that I was at with you and her and another associate of the foundation. I had said, I didn't know, if I wanted to channel through my body some ghost, like if I'm not here, what is it? And I remember her saying very distinctly to me, what does it matter? Do you have any idea what somebody would give to hear their child's voice again? And that sticks with me on so many levels. Not that I ever will, but I won't reject. But not that I ever will channel through and be able to do that. But it was at that moment that I realized how important mediumship was going to continue to be for me forever and ever and ever. And with Fran watching over us from spirit, every once in a while I will tap in. And when I say that, I mean, it's kind of like we can't read ourselves, but sometimes it's nice to tap in and just say, you better be with me, you know? And so to have those experiences with her and to have you here on the show makes me feel very special. So I'm very thankful. In your My Personal Challenge chapter, you wrote, this may lead you to believe, meaning the book and your stories. This may lead you to believe that I am well prepared to handle the death of a loved one. Forgive me. The simple truth is that we all grieve because we love. The more we love, the greater the pain of physical separation. But there is the thing. I know that I will survive because I know that she will still exist, that she still exists, and I know that I will see her again. Eventually, light will begin to gradually dissipate the darkness. It will not happen overnight. Inner knowing that there is life after death is not a magic pill to alleviate grief. It is the pain of not having them in the physical is profound. However, those who possess this knowledge will emerge from the abyss and have a profound advantage over those who believe that death is final. You have experienced so much, the loss of your daughter, the loss of your wife, and a lot of losses in between. It doesn't make your path any easier, even with having access to I don't even know how many mediums there are right now, do you?
27.
27. So worldwide, 27 mediums have passed the evaluation test.
Right, over 18 years, so what is a little more than one a year?
A little more than, and I am extremely honored to be one of them and humbled that I was able to meet Fran and be with her for so long, and so thankful that you came on the show. Do you have any last words for our listeners as far as their adventures going forward?
No, I mean, if I was going to give some advice, something that I've learned in all the losses is that we tend to live under this illusion of permanence. You know, we think the ground beneath our feet is always going to be there. And I try to live my life now as if it was my last day.
Oh.
You know, so try to appreciate things more. If there's something I have to say, you know, say it. If there's something I want to do, you know, do it, because whoever and whatever is there today in the blink of an eye may not be there tomorrow, you know. So I think if we live our lives with that, and always thinking that whatever is here could disappear, it gives more meaning to our lives. We can appreciate from a simple sunrise, you know, to a walk through nature, to telling somebody that you love them. I mean, it's
because it is all about love.
It gives meaning and purpose.
I love you.
Well, I love you too.
Oh, thank you everybody for tuning in today to episode 17 of Messages from Heaven with my guest, Bob Ginsberg. Please look up the Forever Family Foundation and check out the Medium Explosion and get your copy today. Thank you so much. Have a great night.